Hello everyone, it is so great to be live with you again. Thank you so much for turning up for day 3, round 3. We're here live right now. Thank you everyone for all over the world, wherever you are. Let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. I love seeing your comments, the engagement, the interaction. If this is your first one, say it's your first one. If this is your 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, tell me which one it is for you. Is it 1 out of 3? Is it 2 out of 3? Or is it 3 out of 3? Write it down in the comments below. I love seeing all of you coming in online right now. Anna, wonderful to see you. Jaslyn, great to see you. Anjali, good to see you. Chris, good to see you. Abhishek, great to see you as well. Kevari, day 1, awesome. Excellent. Simon, good to see you here. Chrisanne is here for day 3. Awesome. How many of you are on your 3 out of 3? I have been blown away by your incredible consistency, your incredible commitment. Well done to you. If you're here 3 out of 3, even if you've caught up and watched the replays, that still counts. So if you're someone who hasn't been able to be here for the lives and you're watching this on the replay, a huge congrats to you as well, because that is amazing progress. Like I said on day 1, immersive change is the most powerful. If you're able to sit through these 5 days, you're going to make a difference in your life for the next 5 months and the next 5 years. On day 1, we covered the most important topic of making peace with your past. Day 2, we covered finding and knowing your priorities. This one was a mind-blowing session. The feedback from yesterday was absolutely off the chain. It was incredible. You were all gaining so many insights, so many powerful points, so many realizations and reflections were happening right there. It was incredible to see that. So many of you on day 3 right now. Cheska says round 3, here we go. Philippines represent. I love that. One of my goals is to develop self-control and patience, especially when I'm under stress. Thanks for your self-healing artwork. Amazing. Thank you, Cheska. That's awesome. Andrea says, lovely greetings from Germany and a big thank you. You're the best. Thank you, Andrea. That's so kind of you. Awesome to have you here. Roma, good to see you here as well. Who else is joining in? Brilliant. Don't worry about missing the first 2. Grab the replays. It's good to see you here. So we're on day 3. Tomorrow's live is going to be extremely important. I've got a huge announcement for you, so I can't wait for you to hear that. But we're going to start off right now. We've got 3,000 people online right now. It's growing. It's amazing. Keep coming here. We're going to go for round 3, day 3. And today's topic, today's theme is going to be so significant for so many of you. I already know that so many of you are going to have a huge breakthrough today with some of the points that I'm about to make. And number 3, day 3, is this. Wait, I'm going to read some comments before I tell you. Sorry for the anticipation, but one second. Kimberly says, hi Jay, I'm so glad I've finally been able to get on your live. My work schedule doesn't allow me to. Thank you for helping me get over the past. You're amazing. Thank you, Kimberly. That means so much. Mind Gym day 3. So excited for this new session, Jay. Thank you very much for opening my eyes. These past 2 sessions already made an effect. That's brilliant. 3 out of 3 says Kyle. Such an awakening. My goals of a more peaceful life in the works. Thanks to you. Thank you. This is awesome. Okay, great. So today's session is this. Focus on your potential instead of your limitations. Focus on your potential instead of your limitations. You don't know what your limits are until you test them. Listen to that carefully. You have no idea what your limits are until you test them. We spend hours, days, weeks, and months focusing on everything we're not good at, everything we're getting wrong, everything that is falling apart, and totally ignore the other side. This happens to so many of us. This happens to so many of us where we ignore our potential and the possibilities and the opportunities, and we give all of our energy to the tragedies, the adversities, all the things that are going wrong. Instead of focusing on possibilities and opportunities, we focus on adversities and tragedies. And these adversities and tragedies just bring us down. When actually, when we focus on opportunities and possibilities, they bring us up. And this isn't a matter of positive thinking. This isn't just about think positive, think about what's going right. That's not what this is. What this is focusing on what you can control versus focusing on what you can't control. If the weather is bad today, you don't, and you wanted to go outdoors. Yes, you can't go outdoors, but that doesn't mean you can't have a good time. That's the difference between focusing on an adversity and an opportunity. The adversity is the weather's gone bad. If you focus on the adversity, what's going to happen? The weather's not going to change. But if you come up with a new opportunity and say, oh, we could do that activity, but we could do it indoors. Oh, I could do that, but I could achieve it indoors. When it becomes about the opportunity, look what happens. Your brain switches. You get excited. You get fueled. Have you noticed that? Just think about a moment in your life where you've given more energy to adversity. What has that gained? What has that gained? We gain nothing. How many times have you had that in your life where you've given more energy to an adversity than you have to an opportunity? Joe says, I'm at Disney watching you right now. Joe, that's pretty impressive. I love Disney. So if I can keep your attention while you're at Disney, that's awesome. Elena says, so true. I want to sing, but I don't have the voice. Instead, I write quite well, but I don't give importance to it. Why? It's frustrating because we don't recognize the power in our potential. One of my mentors once said this to me. And when he said it to me, I never took him that seriously because I used to always write it off as like, oh, you know, that's some mumbo jumbo. It's not true. He said, you will only realize your potential when you experience pain. And I used to think, no, I work hard. I know my potential. He said, no, you will only realize your potential when you're put into pain. A couple of years ago, when I was put into the biggest pain in my life, I just moved country. I had to move jobs 3 times in 1 year. Things were switching around all the time. I had 4 months left to live and pay for my rent. I had no money left. When I was put in extreme pain, that completely unlocked my potential. While I was comfortable, I never got to know my potential. But why I'm sharing this with you is, even if you're comfortable right now, don't wait for pain. You do not have to wait for pain to find your potential. You can find it right now. But you have to believe this. So many of us in our lives are blocking ourselves from our potential. Vinay, it's great to see you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Awesome to have you here right now. Rikesh, great to see you as well. But this is so, so powerful. I want you to think about it. How many times have you ever been in that situation, right? Just as with the weather, you can't change the weather. So when you're saying, oh no, but I'm being a realist, you're not. You're actually being a pessimist. Because when you're saying, oh, the weather's bad, I'm just going to focus on the adversity in front of me. Positive thinking isn't focusing on the possibility. It's being someone who focuses on the possibility. It's someone who focuses on the opportunity, right? That's where it starts. And we have to understand this. Jason says, that's great, Jay. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had Marines I would take. The Marines no one wanted. And I'd reveal their true potential and they would grow in confidence. That is amazing to hear. I'd love to hear more about that, right? Carol says, there are so many things that I now know I missed out on because I was afraid to push my limitations and possibly failing. This is the point. You don't know your limits until you test them. Let me tell you this very important story about this man that we all know his name. We all know what he went through in life. And this is the crazy thing. I'm just checking the stat to make sure it's correct. Listen to this. This man, when he was around 19 or 20 years old, was told. This man was one of the smartest people of his time. He was so smart, intellectually challenging the world, coming up with new ideas. And before he even got to do that, before he ever got to that, just when he had potential, that's all he had. All he had was potential. And he was told at the age of 19 that he would die in 6 months. He was told at the age of 19 that he would die in 6 months. Imagine being told that at 19, when you've got all this potential ahead of you. You've got everything in the world ahead of you. Guess what? This man not only lived beyond 6 months, he wrote a global best-selling book when he could only write 4 words per minute. Not only was he told he was going to die, he didn't just not die, he lived. Not only did he just live, he wrote a best-selling book globally when he could only write 4 words a minute. Why? Because he had motor neuron syndrome. All he could do is just being able to click. All he was able to was click. He could only type by clicking. 4 words a minute. Can you imagine writing a best-selling book, only being able to do 4 words a minute? He went on to live for 76 years. That man's name is Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, the famous scientist. He was told he was going to die at 19. He lived till age 76. He passed away last year. You don't know your limits until you test them. We all think we know our limits. There's this famous experiment from the past, which I absolutely love, that I want you to remember and recognize when I'm telling it to you right now. Maybe some of you heard this, maybe some of you haven't before. They did a study. This study was painful. I don't condone it. I'm just making it to make a point. They did a study where they looked at fleas and how high they would fly, right? And how high they would fly. These fleas would fly. And what they did, they put them in a container. And then they watched how these flies would fly in this container. And what they would do is they would fly up and they would hit the ceiling. And they would fly up and hit the ceiling and then they'd come back down. Then they took off the lid and the fleas would still be at that limit. They wouldn't think to go beyond because we are setting our limits right here. We are setting our limits here and then we're living up to them. This has happened with sharks. This has happened with animals. This has happened with elephants who've been tied to a stump that's that big that an elephant could rip out. But because they had that stump, since they were young, since they were kids, they couldn't pull it out anymore because of their mental state, our mind. You only know your limits when you test them. If you don't test your limits, you do not know your limits. Most of us have never tested our limits. We've just accepted them. You don't know your limits until you test them. So do not accept anything as your limit. Do not accept anything until you have truly tested it. And even when you feel you've exhausted all options, remember this, you haven't. This is the mistake. Even when you feel you've exhausted all options, remember this, you haven't. Most of us have not even dared test the possibilities. And I want to tell you one more story before we dive into this right now. But before I do that, I'm going to take some of your comments. Sorry, I was getting into the flow state there. When I'm in the zone, I hope you're loving it. I hope you're with me when I'm just zoning in. Good morning. This is amazing. Yes, block our abundance and so much more, says Susie. Thanks, Susie. Alex says, Jay, these lessons are so amazing. I'm so happy a friend of mine pushed me to do this with her after I introduced her to you. Alex, thank you both for being here. Amber says, I almost died last year since getting out of hospital. My mindset in life has changed so much. I've discovered so much about myself. I'm infinitely grateful. That's amazing, Amber. Thank you so much for sharing that. It means so much to me. Mars says, oh my God, and here I've been postponing writing my book. I keep on procrastinating everything that will get me to be successful. I limit myself so much. Imagine that a man who had motor neuron syndrome, whose body is disintegrating, wrote a book tapping 4 words per minute. What is our excuse? Lion absolutely says, pain can show your potential and your unknown power, but continue to test limits, pain or not. Matthew says, this is crazy. I was just talking about this with my mentor. Awesome. Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing that about the podcast. Helen says, thank you. Don't accept limits until truly tested. We don't know our limits. Absolutely. Vinay says, how do we get into the flow state faster? So the interesting thing, for those of you who never heard of flow state, but flow state is when your challenge meets your expertise. So we generally live in one of 2 areas. We either live in a state where our challenges are bigger than our skill set. And when your challenge is bigger than your skill set, you feel depressed, you feel anxious, you feel tired, you feel you can't do anything. How many of you are in that position right now? When I'm telling you these stories, how many of your limiting beliefs are because of a lack of skills, not a lack of challenge? And we have the opposite scenario. Sometimes our skills are really high, but our challenge is low. And when we feel depressed, because it's too easy, we feel lethargic, we feel fatigued. So we feel flow when our expertise and our challenge is at the same level. So if your challenge is higher than your skill set right now, your potential is in learning and growth. Just like Stephen Hawking, right? His challenge was really high, but he rose his skills and his mindset. And that's what we have to rise our mindset first, and then our skills will naturally expand. But we have to open up our minds, right? The mind is like a parachute. It only functions when it's open, right? A parachute can only save someone when it's open. Your mind can only save you when it's open to the abundance and the limitless potential that exists. Potential is limitless, but you have to be open to tap into that limitlessness, right? This is how it works. Louise says, this is so true. It's so tempting to stay in our comfort zone. Absolutely. We all live in our comfort zone, right? We all live in our comfort zone. And that's the biggest mistake that we make. We live in our comfort zones. We don't even stretch beyond the comfort zone, right? It's so important to push ourselves a little further into the growth zone. Now, another story that, well, no, I'll take a few more comments before I tell you the next story I wanted to share with you. Donna Ray, thank you. You're amazing, Jay. I also learned this by surviving 4 organ transplants. That's amazing. Danielle says, I needed this so much. I started running for a triathlon this week. Brilliant. I'm loving all the energy, guys. The likes and the loves flying through. It's awesome to have over 5,000 of you with us right now. Venezia says, ever since I've been listening to you, I've slowly been coming out of my depression and learning to appreciate the little things. Thank you for sharing that. Carla says, that's great, Jay. I strongly believe that we have to work as if we had no limits and there is so much to be accomplished. I think my life shows that. I'm sure it does. It's so beautiful that all of you are seeing this in your own life, right? Remember this, that 6 months ago, you had a challenge that you never overcome, but you did it. 6 years ago, you had a challenge in your life that you never thought you'd overcome, but you did it. Guess what? You're going to do it again. Just keep that open mindset. Roberta, thank you for reminding me to be positive. My life has been very difficult and I've had very few people believe in me. I realize now I have to continue to believe in myself. Absolutely. Cuddy, great to see you here. Anita says, you really changed how I perceive the world. I see it with much more optimism. Also amazing. Okay, one more story and I'm going to dive into some practical, tactical skill sets for you. I've already given you the skill set of understanding your flow state. Flow state is when your expertise meets your challenge. Which one are you not living up to? Are you not challenging yourself enough? Or are you not learning enough? Is learning your gap or is your challenge your gap? Know which one it is. Ask yourself that question right now. Do you need to increase your challenge or do you need to increase your skill set? Guess what? Both are possible. I want you to write that right now. And yes, there are times when our challenge is so high, so we have to really push our skill set up. But guess what? You feel so much more fulfilled when you do that. So much more fulfilled. Okay. That's where it starts, right? That's where it starts. So, this was the last story I wanted to tell you before I give you some practical exercises. Wilma Rudolph. This story will blow your mind if you don't know it. She was born prematurely on June 23rd, 1940 in Tennessee, right? The incredible thing about her, not only was she born prematurely, she was stricken with double pneumonia, scarlet fever, and polio as a child. She had problems with her left leg and had to wear a brace. It was with great determination and the help of physical therapy that she was able to overcome her disabilities. And when she was 9, she decided she wanted to be a runner. This girl who had a brace on her leg her whole life, had never run before, had never walked properly before, wanted to become a runner. And guess what? She ended up becoming an Olympic medal winner. It's a true story of Wilma Rudolph. She went on to win in the Olympics. It's incredible. How is that even possible, you would think? Because of faith, because of recognizing that she didn't want to accept the limits. We don't know our limits until we test them. If you have not tested your limits to the limit, you do not know your limits. Realistically, genuinely, truth be told, if you've not tested your limits to their limit, you do not know your limits. You just don't know them. You just don't know them. And here's how I understand it. And this is what all of my study for the past 13 years, living as a monk for 3 years, studying with some of the greatest minds on the planet, interviewing, working with some of the most incredible people in the world. This is what I've learned. What I've learned is that we've been told 2 lies. The first lie is that you're nothing. You're worthless. you're never going to achieve anything. How many of you have heard that? How many of you have heard that from a teacher, a parent, a friend, a person around you? Someone saying to you, you're nothing. You're never going to worth anything. How many of you have ever experienced that in your life? So that's the first lie we've been told. The second lie we've been told is you can be anything. You can do anything you want. Now, I like this principle and I like it when it's said, but it's just not true. You can be anything you want. Now, you can be anything you want if you're ready to work for it. But then there's also natural skill sets, natural tendencies that we all have. So the truth is, you can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. Listen to that carefully. Repeat it to yourself often. You can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. I'll give you my personal example. Growing up, I absolutely loved playing football, soccer, right? I loved football and I still do. It's one of my most favorite things in the world to do. I genuinely love it, get so much enjoyment from it. It brings me alive. I love playing it. I love watching it. I love talking about it. And I played it a lot growing up. I played for several teams, local teams, nothing professional. And I enjoyed the sport so much. But I didn't have the physicality or the mental determination at the time for that, even when I pushed myself to go all the way. So now if I just fake it to myself that I'm a football player, that doesn't make sense. But I knew that I had other skills. My skills were learning, studying, synthesizing, sharing, communicating, connecting. And I had to learn that too. That is something I had to learn too, but that's where I had the mental focus. So now when I'm in the gym, one of the things I say to my personal trainer is, I do not envy Cristiano Ronaldo because I know how hard he works to get to that physical level. But how hard he works physically, I work that hard mentally to do what I do. That's where I get my buzz from. That's where I get my fulfillment from. We all have a unique genius. We all have a unique potential. And I want to help you uncover that slightly today. I want to help you understand a bit more about what you already have inherently within you that we want to bring out. Education really means that. Education means to bring out from within. That's what it means. And that's what I really want to help you do, is bring out from what you already have inside you as a skill, as a talent, something to give you. Paula says, you can be anything you want, but you can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. This is going to be put on my wall so I can read it every morning. That's one thing to put on your wall. Definitely put that on your wall, everyone. Put that on your wall. The second thing to put on your wall is, when I have children, I'm going to put this on their wall. And it says, because the people who believe they can change the world are the ones who do. It's a Steve Jobs quote. I've repeated it to myself many, many times. We are defined by the stories we tell ourselves. Wilma Rudolph rewrote her story here and therefore lived a different story here. Stephen Hawking rewrote his story here and therefore lived a different story in reality. When you rewrite your story mentally, you live a different story in reality. You don't just accept the story being given to you. You rewrite it up here. Even if you can't change your physicality. Like Stephen Hawking, he couldn't be anything he wanted. He couldn't be an athlete after his body started to disintegrate. But he could be everything he was. He was an intellectual. He was a talent. He could be all of that. He could be all of that. And I've seen even one of my closest mentors at the moment, who has stage 4 brain cancer, who's completely lost his short-term memory. Completely lost his short-term memory. But he's got his long-term memory. He recognizes me. He recognizes a lot of us. But he's lost his short-term memory. But guess what? He is still everything he always was. He's still humble. He's still kind. He's still spiritual. He's still this incredible soul. Even when his short-term memory has been stripped away from him. Even when he has stage 4 brain cancer. Even when so many of his mental faculties have been taken away from him. Because you can always be everything you are. You can always, in any situation, be everything you are. This is the truth. You don't know your limits until you test them. You have no idea what your limits are until you test them. We just have no idea. We have no idea. Jamie says, I'm going to let my students and all the young people I meet follow this. You can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. Thank you. I truly mean it. Millicent says, I'm always afraid of failure and disappointing people, so I end up not trying anything. What do I do? If you've never failed, you've never tried anything new. That's the truth. We all fail. You will fail. I'm not even going to say you're not going to fail. You will fail. But why are you worried about failing? What does it do? Because some people look down at you. Because some people think that you're not smart. Like, why are we scared of failing? What is it that stops us from scaring for failing? What people think? Well, guess what? What people think doesn't affect whether you'll be a success or a failure again. I've been at both ends. And I've realized that giving up what people think about me is probably the best rule of success I've ever heard in my life. Being able to give up people's opinions of you is going to change your life, right? Being able to give up people's opinions of you is going to change your life because people will never, ever be satisfied with what you do. People will never, ever be satisfied with what you do. There was a man and his son on a donkey riding through a horse. When they rode through the first town, the town said, oh my God, how sad is that? Both these father and son, they're both riding this horse. This horse must be so uncomfortable. So they both got off. Then in the next town, the old man was riding it. And then everyone in the town said, oh my God, this old man, he's so inconsiderate. He's got a young son. Why didn't they both ride the horse? So in the next town, they swapped. The son got on and the father was walking. And then that town said, well, look how inconsiderate this son is. He's young. He should let his old father ride the horse. So then the last town, they both were not riding the horse. They both stepped down because they thought, what do we do now? And everyone was like, how stupid are these two people? They have a horse and neither of them are riding it. It's like this crazy world we live in. People will always find a way to criticize what you do. So if you're scared of failing because of what people think, you're stopping yourself from learning. You're stopping yourself from growth. It takes failure to grow. It takes failure to learn. We're defined by the stories we tell ourselves. Barbara says, oh, I love this, Jay. I've always believed I'm here to connect and love humanity. I want to work with teenagers and can't afford singing lessons and inspire them to their greatness. That can't afford. Sorry, yeah, it makes sense. Cami says, Jay, you bring out the happy tears in me, realizing that I do have the chance to test the limits and break through. You 100% do. You 100% do. Lillian says, when you discover your natural skills and the gift you have inside, life becomes better in every way. 100%. 100%. Shannon says, I'm on my second try at having my own business. And I'm taking the lessons I learned from the first failure to help me plot a different path. Absolutely. That's what failures do. They become guidelines. Failures are just guidelines. That's the problem. We label them as failures. We label something as a failure. It's just a guideline. Karen says, I needed this so much today. Awesome. Failure should not hinder you. It should become a guideline to get things better. That's what it is. Jessica, thanks so much for your positivity. Eve says, whoa, I need to hear this. I care too much what people think of me. I need to give this up. Whoa, this had a powerful message. I need to hear this. Thanks for mentoring us. You're amazing. See, this is the power of mentoring. Whether you've heard these stories before or not, whether you've heard what I'm saying or not, this is the power of coaching. We all need regular reminders. We all need consistent energy. We need someone else who's fueling us and pumping us with their energy and their conviction. Because I'm deeply testing, trying, proving, practicing all these things. I'm giving you not just these words and wisdom, I'm infusing it with all the energy I have so that you can live it too. Syed said, love the example. It was amazing. It made me realize how stuck I was and now I should open up my way. It's never too late to start anything new. We're defined by the stories we tell ourselves. That's it. We're defined by the stories we tell ourselves. So I'm going to ask you two questions. The first question is, are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? And I want you to answer this question for yourself. Not what your job has made you, not what your family's made you, but as you are. Are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? And you might say I'm in the middle, but you're not. We all have a priority and a preference. Are you the person who's always starting up conversation? Do you love being the person bringing energy to the space? Or are you someone who likes to be reserved on the sidelines, get into a one-on-one conversation? Are you the life of the party? Or are you someone who's just there and connecting and consciously? Now, both are as confident as each other. Neither is an advantage or a disadvantage. Are you more outgoing or are you more reserved? Choose one and write it down. Outgoing or reserved? Tell me right now. Write it in the comments. Outgoing or reserved? Outgoing or reserved? Which one are you? Write it down in the comments so that I know. Tara says, that's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you so much for creating this course. Of course, I'm here for all of you. I'm genuinely here for all of you. Heather says, how do you know where to start? I'm unhappy in my career and want to do something else, but I don't know what my passion is. I'm 35 and feel like I'm too old to start. Heather, true story. I started my career when I was 27. I changed my career at 29. I started late. I changed at 29. You're 35. You're not old. You're totally fine. You can change it right now. Now, do this exercise with me. It's going to help you. This is going to help you uncover your potential and your strengths inside of you. Are you outgoing or reserved? Choose one. Second question. Are you more people-oriented or are you more task-oriented? People-oriented people are thinking about people's experience first, task second. Task-oriented people are thinking about the task first, people second. So people-oriented people are thinking like, is everyone having a good time right now? Are people learning? Are people growing? Is there energy? A task-oriented person is going, okay, 30 minutes has gone. How much time is left? Okay, this is what I have to do. The task person is thinking about task. Neither is better or worse. Which one are you? Are you task or are you people? So you should have two words now. You should either have outgoing in people or outgoing in task, or reserved in people or reserved in task. Which one do you have? Write down your two words right now. Are you outgoing in people or outgoing in task, or are you reserved in people and reserved in task? And I want to know the two words together. Let me know. And it's not about how confident you feel. It's how you feel when you're at your best. Remember a moment when you were in your element. Like maybe you're a task person who loves organizing birthday parties and you feel at your best. Maybe you're someone who loves when you're at the center of the show and people love you too. When do people love you the most? And when do you love yourself the most? That's the two questions to ask. When are you most in your element? And when do people most see it? People or task or outgoing and reserved? So reserved task is Rikesh. Who else? Outgoing in people, outgoing in task, reserved in people, or reserved in task? Let me know which ones you are right now. So, let me tell you a bit about the strengths of each. Let's start with outgoing and task. Outgoing and task people are directors. They're doers. You get stuff done. You're great at planning. You're great at scheduling. You're great at organizing. These are all your inherent skills. This is the most important thing about anyone who's in that space. If you're outgoing in task, you're a director, you get stuff done, you make things happen, you're focused, you're organized, you're results orientated, you're great with plans. Know that about yourself. Own that about yourself. Don't trade that. That's what makes you you. Now, outgoing in people. These people are inspirers, they're ideators, they're insightful, they like coming up with new thoughts, brainstorm. They're good at sales. They're good at communication. They're good at interaction. That is your strength. Own it. That is your strength. Welcome it. Work towards that strength. Work with that energy. If you're outgoing in people, that is your strength. That is your hidden genius. That is your hidden potential. Now, if you're reserved in task, you're calculative, you're cautious, you're quality oriented. You make sure things are done perfectionally. That's your task. Own it. You're great at detail. You're great at quality. And finally, reserved in people. You're stable. You're supportive. You're good at mediating. You're good at conflict resolution. You're good at caring for others. Own it. See, we all have these traits, but guess what? We all try and be everyone else. There's a beautiful thought from Albert Einstein. He said, everyone's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it's stupid. Right? Everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it's stupid. This is our biggest challenge. We are fishes trying to fly. We're birds trying to climb trees. We're lions trying to swim. We're measuring ourselves on a metric of success that is not for us. You have a zone of genius. Demonstrate it more. Let that be shown more. Demonstrate, express that skill more in your workplace, wherever you are in the workplace, wherever you are at home. Share that more. Share that more. The challenge is we think we have to become someone else to stand out. The truth is you have to be this to stand out. This is your innate nature. These are your natural skills and tendencies. And when you live by them, incredible things happen. Incredible things happen when you live by these. The challenge is we're constantly trying to be something else. I remind myself this all the time. This is where I'm going to have the biggest impact. This is the place where I'm going to have the biggest impact. When you go all in on what you're naturally strong at, when you're naturally good at, that's where you become powerful. Rikesh says, I should have stayed a coder being reserved and task-oriented. Coding definitely fits that description as a career. Frederick says, thank you, Jay. You just unlocked something huge in me. Awesome. Suchitra says, outgoing in people. This makes me feel so good about myself, for I've always compared myself to others. Absolutely. This is our problem. We go, oh my God, why am I not as analytical? Oh my God, why am I not as planning and scheduling? Oh my God, why am I not as people oriented? Oh my God, why am I not good at sales? Why am I not? So we're spending our whole life trying to become good at what we're average at. When what we should be doing is being better at what we're good at. We spend our whole lives trying to become good at what we're average at. When we should be doing is becoming the best at what we're good at. This one tiny piece of wisdom will transform your life. When you work in alignment with this, when you work in alignment with your natural skills, tendencies, characteristics, attributes, you will have an impact and make a dent, and people notice you, recognize you, acknowledge you, appreciate you, and you will make a difference in people's lives. The moment I started practicing this advice, it changed my lives. Angie says, thank you for these words. We are all worth so much more and need to learn our worth. 100%. Lynette says, Jay, mind blown. This is going to save me from saying yes to things I'm not suited for. Yes, Lynette, that is exactly it. When you know who you are, you know what to say yes to, and you know what to say no to. Jonathan Lopez says, love that quote. Everyone has their innate strengths and great potential. 100%. And this is the problem. We are not aligned. Right? We're not aligned. We're living out of alignment and expecting things to line up. How does that make sense? If you are not aligned, how can your life line up? If you are not aligned, how will your life line up for you? This is awesome. Giovanna has opened her eyes. Shavneet loves being with people and healing. It's not about becoming the best version of anyone else. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. And the challenge is we're constantly focused on becoming a better version of someone else. We're constantly focused on becoming a better version of someone else instead of becoming the best version of ourselves. And that's why we're dissatisfied. Even if you became the most analytical person in the world, you would not be satisfied because it's not in line with your true nature and who you are. Nupur says, you just open up another dimension in our brains. It seems common, but it takes someone else to speak it out to you. That is the value of coaching. Every time you guys say statements like that, I want you to own this. This is what coaching does. Francis says, love how these lessons build upon the other. Absolutely, Francis. This is a curriculum. This is all 13 years of my hard work trying to figure out how this all fits together. Tessa says, this is so interesting. I never thought I was more focused on tasks than people. Thank you so much, Dave. This makes so much sense. Brilliant. So I want you to now think of this. When you go to work tomorrow, bring these skills out. This doesn't mean that you don't do the others. You will have to be the others. But this is where you're going to propel and show your greatness. Show it more. Demonstrate. Don't expect anyone to spot this, by the way. Don't expect anyone to spot your talent. You have to demonstrate it. You have to show it. You have to grow it. You have to put it on show for people to experience. And don't make it about whether people notice or not. You have to start living this. You have to start living this. Now, I want to use this newfound confidence you have, this newfound belief you have, these newfound realizations that you've just had to overcome the stories we tell ourselves. Remember I told you this, when you rewrite your story up here, you rewrite your story in real life. Paul Smith, you're 100% right. Paul Smith says, self-actualization is the biggest achievement we can make in life. 100%. Sunita says, thanks, Jay. I'm focused on being my best and highest self. You have opened up Pandora's box. Thank you for this mentoring. Absolutely. Jessica Pankey says, you doing this is absolutely amazing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Of course, Jessica. Thank you so much. Awesome. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to go through the 5 biggest issues in the stories we tell ourselves which blocks us. The first one is you think you can't do better. How many times at work, in your relationship, anywhere do you feel you can't do better? You've been given a task to do at work that you've never done before, or your friend has dragged you along to try out a new sport. You just can't get your head or feet around it. Do you respond by thinking, now I want you to choose. If you've been put into a challenging situation where you've never done it before, do you A, think this is clearly not for me, I obviously don't have the gift for it? Or do you B, think I need to work harder at this with some practice, I don't see any reason why I can't improve? Are you A or B? Tell me right now. When you're facing a challenge, the first thing you say to yourself is this clearly isn't for me, I obviously don't have what it takes? Or do you say to yourself, with some practice and some learning, I could be better at this? Which one do you say, A or B? I want to know. I want to know right now. Which one are you, A or B? Which one are you, A or B? I want to know, which one are you, A or B? I am B. Good, thank you for being honest. B. Good, I'm saying a lot of B's now. This is awesome. Great. So if you chose A, you have something called a fixed mindset. You might believe that you're born with a certain intelligence. That can change. Our skills and natural traits are there, but your intelligence and expansion, everything can change. But you think that successful people are successful because that's the way they are. Now, B means you have a growth mindset, which means you can expand. That's what we want to get to, and that's what you get to. So when you start by focusing on what you're naturally good at, when you start by focusing on your natural strengths, it gives you confidence to then go out and do stuff you've never done before. The problem is we don't even have a basic foundation of confidence. So I want you to start exercising that. The format I gave you of asking you the 2 questions, right? I want you to think that through. Now, how many of you let your supposed knowledge trick you? Let me ask you this question. Which ones are deadlier? Sharks or horses, right? Which ones are deadlier, sharks or horses? If you answered sharks, you likely did what majority of people do. Search your story of memories for deaths caused by each animal. It is easy to recall information about shark attacks from news, but harder to think of many, if any, of horse-related deaths. If you answered horses, you probably have knowledge most people don't. There are in fact nearly 20 times more deaths by horses than by sharks. Bailey clarifies this problem. This mistake can be explained by something called the availability heuristic, a mental shortcut which leads to assume that things which are easier to remember occur more frequently. So because negativity occurs more frequently in the news, we think it's more there in our lives. Because we read and hear about shark deaths more often, i.e. in the media, we think they happen more often. It is just one of the many logical fallacies humans make. Confirmation bias and wishful thinking are others. Our brains need some shortcuts. See, we make these shortcuts every single day. We make this mistake every single day. So because we're exposed to more negativity through news, through media, through updates, through people's challenges, we assume that there are more negative chances of things happening. The availability heuristic. more people die from horse accidents than shark accidents. But horse accidents don't make it to the news. They're leaving the horses out, right? Crazy. Now, the third challenge is that we give up too quickly. We give up too quickly. When it comes to marathon runners and entrepreneurs, they share an ability to call in a particular strength when it gets bleak. It's that scarce source of power that can make a difference in getting over the line. Being determined, driven, grit, right? To develop grit, cultivate qualities such as commitment to finish the things you start. This is why making your bed in the morning is such a powerful act of grit and commitment. You wake up in the morning, you don't want to make that bed, you just want to get going, and you force yourself to make that bed. Guess what happens? Bang, you're accessing grit in that moment. When you wake up in the morning and you everything wants to look at the phone, but you don't want to look at the phone, you don't look at your phone. Grit, you're accessing grit in that moment, right? You're accessing grit in that moment. Huge things happen. Number 4, you're too easy on yourself, right? So many people are easy on themselves. We don't push ourselves. That's what I was saying earlier about that's the point I was making about flow state. When we don't challenge ourselves, if you have skills, challenge yourself to grow. So if your skills are here, put your challenge here and you'll grow this much. If your skills are here and your challenges, if your challenge is here and your skills are here, grow your skills and grow this much, right? Know which one you have to grow, right? Know which one you have to grow. This is what you have to do to access your potential. Don't limit yourself based on what you currently believe. Your current set of beliefs is based on who you're around. I'll give you an example. If you're around a group of people and the most someone earns in that group of people is 50,000, which is a lot of money. If someone in your group earns 50,000, you will believe that that's the most. For a long time, you'll believe that that's the most that you need to reach, and that's the most you can reach. If everyone in your circle makes 100,000, you will think that's what you can reach. If everyone in your circle makes 1 million, you'll think that's what you can reach. If everyone in your circle makes 1 million a month, you'll think that's what you can reach. If everyone in your circle makes 100 million, you'll think that's what you can reach. We think we can reach what is the collective reach of people around us. Our reach, our limits are defined by those who are around us. I'm just giving a money example, but that applies to money, to family, to happiness, to success. If most people around you are not very happy, you'll think, yeah, that's kind of the average, because we compare ourselves to the average. It's what we do all the time. We just start compare ourselves to the average. This is why, to untap our potential, we have to be around people who are also untapping their potential. This is why right now we have 5,000 people here. There's 150,000 people in this group. When you're with people who also want to untap their potential and living their potential, you also find yours, right? You also find yours. This is the stuff that we all miss out on. This is the stuff that we all make a mistake on. It's incredible how many mistakes we make. By the way, all of you are amazing. I'm so grateful. Angie, I love that. If you're the smartest person in the room full of people, you're in the wrong room, 100%. Disha, yes. Wow, that's what we believe because that's what we're exposed to. We compare ourselves to the average. Absolutely. We become what we're around. This is awesome. You're amazing for turning up. You're incredible for taking this commitment. See, you have challenged your limits. The way I designed these sessions, not only are you learning what you're listening and writing down, I'm challenging your mental limits. So when I say concepts, I'm pushing you to think bigger and broader. And that's why you're stretching your ability. So it's actually happening in the session, right? It's actually happening in the session. It's not just words and what you write down. You're actually growing without even knowing. That's so right, says Bruna. I'm comfort on my comfort zone. I'm easy on me, and that's what makes me feel less than others. Emily Wright says, surround yourself with those who lift you up. I love that. Brilliant. And the amazing thing about surrounding yourself with powerful people is even if you don't have them in your family or friend circle straight away, which they are there, you have them online now. You have books. You have coaching circles, you have coaching groups, you have mentoring groups, you have mentoring communities, you have courses like this, you have podcasts, right? If any of you are subscribers to my podcast On Purpose, you have a podcast. There are so many ways to tap in to being around positive energy, to being around people who've tapped their potentials. There are no more excuses. There are only possibilities and opportunities. There are no adversities and tragedies. There are only opportunities and possibilities, right? There are only. Thank you so much for turning up to round 3, day 3, all about potential. On day 1, we talked about making peace with your past. On day 2, we talked about finding your priorities. The 3rd day, we talked about potential. Are you noticing a pattern there? Are you noticing a pattern there? Past, mastering your past. 2, mastering your priorities. 3, uncovering your potential, the 3 Ps. Tomorrow's number 4. Guess what we're going to get into? Tomorrow is the big one. Tomorrow is a huge session. I've got a huge announcement for all of you as well. I think you're going to be very, very excited. I can't wait for you to be there. You must show up. You must turn up. Tomorrow is going to be absolutely huge, right? It's going to make a big, big difference in your life. Make sure you don't miss tomorrow. Tell everyone to join. If they've been missing sessions, get to catch up the replay. If you're watching this on the replay, well done for doing this. Well done for being on this replay if that's what you've done. Right? Well done for being here. If you're watching this on the replay and you're not watching this live right now with me. Thank you so much, but do not miss tomorrow's session. I will see you there. Do not miss out. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to read out some comments before we leave. I love reading out your comments. Barbara, I love your podcast. I listen to it every day. I've connected with so many like-minded people through your groups. Thank you, Barbara. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing this amazing lesson, says Bitrin. I love reading your comments. Feel free to share some comments. I'm going to read some before we end. Laurie says, shared this group and linked with 3 friends last night, and they too are now here. Thank you for coaching us today. Laurie, thank you so much. Daniela says, I wish you do this coach every year. Yeah, how many of you would like this coaching more often? I have an exciting announcement for you. Vinay says, this was great. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Vinay. Hope you're well. Karishma says, no more excuses. Yes, yes, yes. We must remember this. So happy I started following your page. Thanks for being an inspiration. Thank you. Dylan says, Jay, can't thank you enough for your commitment, Jay. As always, best regards to you. And Radhi, I hope you savored the Swiss chocolate from the Jomo shoot. Oh, thanks, Dylan. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for being in it. Vinay's saying, what can we do to take this all in before tomorrow? What's this again? Watch this again and take the notes again. Alina says, thank you so much for inspiring and motivating thousands of people, and biggest thanks to all your mentors for training and teaching you so well. Absolutely. All my thanks go to my teachers and guides. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, Carmelina. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Rinky. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Danette. Have an amazing day wherever you are. I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow.